In this video, we're going to review the garage mode of Drift 21. It's where you build up your engine and tune your car's suspension before you take it sliding at Ebisu Circuit. And I'm very excited to see how that comes out because I actually used to live in Japan, I learned to speak Japanese, and I have drifted at Ebisu Circuit in real life. My name is Ben, and this is Kame Trick. My channel is all about drifting. I drift in real life, I drift in games and the simulator, so if drifting is something that you want to get into, learn more about, or just be entertained by, this is the channel for you. So we're getting started with a Mazda MX-5, aka the Miata. It's going to show us how to gather the necessary parts and prepare our first serious drift car, a Mazda Miata, a serious drift car. No hate, but it's a non-traditional chassis, I'll say, due to the low, tiny wheelbase. Okay, approach the car and select Drift Setup. So, we're gonna go Drift Setup. Your car will receive basic modifications to the suspension and brakes, which you can then improve. First, we're gonna buy a complete engine. Not realistic. Everybody who gets into drifting, unless they are pretty far along or pretty financially well off, doesn't just buy a complete engine. We have to struggle in order to get to that point, but let's humor them. We're going to go, let's go with an inline 4, keeping true to the Miata at first. Wow, that is really pretty though. Beautiful, beautiful graphics. Everything's basically there too. Dig it. Alright, let's buy this. So we're going to purchase that. Approach the engine and select Move Engine to Mazda MX-5 from the context menu. But it's on here, it looks cool. Oh, neat, you can turn it upside down. That's rad. Context menu, move to MX-5, and it disappeared. Not realistic. I mean, really, worrying about realism at this point is not such a big deal. But again, oh, how I wish there was just a magical button that would teleport my engine into the car, because that would save me a lot of headache and busted knuckles every single time. Still, we got the motor in the car. It's magically ready to go. Install the seats. Hey, look, there's some seats. So, oh, the doors are open already. That's convenient. We'll grab a seat. If you want to know something that's really annoying, installing seats in the car. And that's without a cage. Managing to get the seat in there is surprisingly frustrating. But we're going to humor them. We'll throw these seats in. Essentially, when you get close enough with your mouse here, it just lines the seat up for you in one click. Installs it. That's way nicer than actually doing seats on your car. So we now need to buy gear shift, handbrake lever, and a steering wheel. Why our car would be lacking these things, I don't know. Oh god, they have a D20. That is hilarious. I gotta do it. We gotta nerd out hardcore here. We're gonna get a D20 so that we can make a saving throw on the Manami jump later. Let's see, what else do we need? A handbrake lever. They don't have anything that looks kind of normal. This is the closest thing to something normal. But there's a freaking samurai sword. God, this is so cliche. We're doing it. Shit you'll never find in my actual car. But that's alright. And last but not least, steering wheels. There's not any steering wheels that are quite as, like, just over the top as some of those other interior components. We'll just get this nice standard leather wheel, and we'll drop it in. Cool. Now we're going to take this car from a dyno. It's rad to have a dyno in the shop. To the lift. I'm going to nerd out and close. Damn, it's got a fuel cell. Stock motor. With a fuel cell. Ooh, god, that is sweet. Alright. So, move car to lift. Boop. And it just teleports over there. And it's already off the ground. Again, I wish that's how it actually worked. We're going to raise it, apparently. And we are missing parts. So there's a missing parts mode. But I can tell you, some of the things we're missing, we don't have a transmission on the end of the thing, and we don't have an exhaust. Now, open headers is pretty rowdy, but, oh. Well, so much for open headers, we just randomly are missing a pipe. And we've got a drive shaft in there. It does look pretty cool down here, though. I mean, everything component-wise is there, which is awesome. What's really missing is probably the rust, and the dirt, and the oil leaks. But, let's see what this missing parts mode does. So we're going to hit E, and you can quickly and efficiently find missing items. Another thing that I wish was the case in real life. It's way over here. So we need a transmission. We need what looks like a downpipe or an exhaust pipe. So if I just click this, what happens? Nice. So if you just click it, it takes you into the shop. It highlights the options. So I'm going to take that, and it just pops into place. Same for a transmission. Let's get a short transmission because we don't have much power in this car. And I'll tell you a little bit about the ratios and all this jazz. We'll scoop that. Again, we just saved like 4 hours of headache, at least at the speed that I do stuff with, because I don't have a lift. I'm just down there trying not to get killed under the car, dropping the exhaust and everything. We need radiator hoses, so let's find those. There's one. So we'll grab it. And then we need the upper radiator hose. I don't know if I can see that from here, so it might be easier to lower the car. Bonk. To find the upper radiator hose. There it is. We'll buy it. And drop it in. Approach and select the car parameters from the context menu. OCD, I have to shut the hood first. Car parameters. Okay, so we're now at a dyno, even though we're just on the lift, whatever. Dyno is a place where you can check the performance of your drift car. If the car is complete, then you can quickly check its power and the torque. If it's incomplete, the list of missing parts can be found. Well, that's just cruel. They'll let you put the car in the dyno just to find out that you're missing part of the engine. Okay, so we're going to run the dyno as I look around my DSLR here. 0 engine sound effects for running a dyno. That's definitely -5 points in my book. But you can see that it is making some power. Press stage view button to check the tuning capabilities of the car. Okay, so there's 3 stages, it looks like. And it's essentially telling us that we have to perform these mods to the engine, some to the drivetrain, which none in this case, and then these other changes in order to improve the car and make it go into what's called stage 1. Stage 2 has brakes, it's got knuckles, and that's really where the fun begins as far as drifting is concerned. Power is very helpful, but good angle and wheel alignment makes all the difference in the car's handling. You'll see we improve the engine as well. And then stage 3, so you improve the engine more. We are adding control arms finally? Wow, no control arms at stage 2. Okay, that's one of the first things that I do when I mod a car. And then brakes, even better knuckles, and a body kit, of course. I do agree with that, which is that, like, make the car look cool last after you've got everything else sorted out. Maybe I'm old school, but that's the gist. Okay, approach the car and select driving setup. This is where we can actually go and drive. I'm not worried about that for this video. If you want to see some of the driving on a wheel, I do have a card that I'll drop in up here and link in the description as well, so you can see what my initial impressions were using my Fanatec Club Sport setup with this nice quick release and all of my gear here. And if you've not seen my rig, I'll drop in a quick image just to give you an idea. It's a pretty decent setup. Let's try to install some drift knuckles. Let me see if I can do that. So I'm going to go to the warehouse. They just added an RX-8. We're going to have to build an RX-8 here in a minute. Filters. Okay, this is cool. I'm going to filter to inline 4 and MX5, because otherwise it does show you everything, which is a little bit useless. So we've got sport knuckles, tuning knuckles, and basic knuckles, and then a steering rack. So I don't know if it'll let me do this, but let's scoop up these knuckles. I don't need them right at the second, so I'm just gonna drop them. I feel bad in my heart and soul for doing that. I would never just drop the knuckles, but what else? And then under the suspension as well, let's see if we can't do some control arms. Guess I'll just make a little parts file. Apparently we need an upper arm. I'm not familiar, full disclosure, I'm not familiar with Mazda Miata suspension shock absorbers as well. Okay, so for this, we're basically going to be doing a style up, and let's see, what else do we want to do? Because we're going to have to pull this stuff off anyway. Yeah, let's put this on 17s. We'll do that. Something a little older, a little tough looking. Oof, God, it hurts my soul to drop this stuff on the ground. Tires, we'll do some 225s. I think that'll fit. Let's mod this car. So we're going to start by taking off the wheel. If we click and hold, it allows us to remove the parts. And again, I guess I just have to drop stuff. So the wheel's going to come off. I want to lower this to where it's just a little bit nicer visual for you guys. Next, we've got a spacer. We got a brake caliper. Let's see. Brake rotor. I'm just going to start dropping this stuff on the ground. The brake caliper mount, and then the hub should come off. So this is a case where actually knowing how to build cars is pretty helpful. They're not really giving a whole lot of instruction about how to do this stuff. Like, if you had never worked on a car in your life, you might not understand that you have to do this stuff in that order. And basically, if you're not able to remove it yet, like, it's just red, and when you click, nothing happens. You don't get any sort of a warning. It doesn't tell you what you're supposed to do next. So that's a little bit daunting, I would feel like, for a beginner, but it's pretty accurate. So one thing that's really cool about the tuning mode in this game is that so far it's been very detailed. We have had to pull stuff off in basically the right order, and in a nutshell, you can absolutely learn some of the gist, like textbook level stuff about how stuff goes together and generally what you should expect. So that's very cool. I like that quite a bit. And really, if we want to take our time here, we could go up and look a little bit more closely at how the suspension goes together. So you've got like your steering rack here, and then that connects to the steering knuckle there through the tie rod, and then that is connected, of course, to the wheel. So when you turn your steering wheel, this rack moves back and forth, and that hits on this knuckle right here, which we can see a little bit more clearly over here. And so then that pivots around this bottom joint and this top joint, and that is going to determine how much angle your car gets. And in fact, when you modify a car for drift knuckles, generally what you do is this arm here becomes shorter, so you chop some material out and weld it back together. Or if you buy an aftermarket knuckle, it's just shorter right there. And so what that does is when this steering shaft moves back and forth, when you shorten that distance, it causes more direction change to happen. That's how you get big angle, is more steering happens at the wheel for the same amount of steering wheel turn. The actual tires are turning even more because you've altered this geometry, basically. So that's kind of neat. I'm curious now if the steering knuckle actually has a shortened... Yeah, you can actually see here that the left side, I'll put an arrow on the screen, you can actually see here that the knuckle has been shortened so that you get that increased angle. So I will give them some props here. That's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and install these mods then. So we're going to remove the knuckle. We don't need that. And then we should be free to remove the control arms, upper, the suspension, and now the lower control arm can come off too. So at this point, we've got everything cleared out on this side of the vehicle. Doesn't look like we're going to be able to automatically have the other side get done for us either. Another thing I wish would happen in real life, but in this case they're not going to give us any help there either. So we'll try and remember the order that we put this together in. That piece is going to go in. Then our upper, I think, goes in maybe? Yes. Next, our improved coilover will drop in. And now we've got everything except the actual knuckle there, geometry-wise, ready. Okay, so in the span of a very short few seconds, we've essentially taken this car from its stock steering geometry and stock suspension into a drift-specific setup that's going to be able to get big angle and probably has better camber gain and things like that, so that when you're at lock, the tire contact patch is superior, and essentially you get the traction in the car that you want. And I'm sure the same will apply for the rear, but I can just demonstrate the front and call that good. Next up, it looks like we are going to get to use the tire machine. Never done this before. Let's see. Oh, is there like a... Oh, they're going to make us do this the real way, I kind of think. Maybe? Nope. Okay, it just teleports on. Well, that'll work. I wish that was easy as well. God dang. Doing your own tires is awesome and way cheaper, and you can do it on your own time. My team has a tire machine that we bought together. We all went in and split it, but oh, it's a pain. So normally what you do is you take the wheel and tire and you stick it on this thing, and that, like if you have old tires on, that breaks the bead loose. Then you lock it on here and this will work it on and off. But either way, it is good. Okay, let's see. I need this. This is a wheel balancer. It's going to do the same thing. It's going to make sure that the wheel is all mounted in the most optimum way. This is where they would put like the wheel weights on. So that's pretty cool. That's fun. I dig it. Alright, so we've now got our wheel and tire set up. That's pretty neat. I'm getting some nostalgia for working on my car, and this is way more fun than actually working on the real car. Let's see, we'll put this back together. So we should have a hub and then a brake caliper mount, get it to click in there. Then our actual caliper can go on. Next up, sorry, our rotor can go on. Now our caliper can go around the rotor. And let's see how the spacer looks once we put this 17 on. Ooh, that looks mean. That is sticking out there. Let's see if we can't move the car over to the dyno. I just want to see what it looks like actually on the ground. It's up in the air a little bit more than I would like, and it's not just because the tire is bigger. I'm talking about the fender gap there. So that's interesting. Got a little bit of poke. I mean, it looks pretty nice. If it would look like that all the way around, I would not mind it. Next up, let's turbo this engine. So I guess we're gonna start by just pulling some parts off of it and chucking them on the ground, because that's just how we're gonna be. So there goes the air filter, fuel rail, an intake manifold. Exhaust is gonna have to go too, I'm pretty sure. I am not the most active turbo tuner, but we're gonna start by just dumping all these super nice parts on the ground. Then we need to go shopping. So we'll get a turbo exhaust manifold. This can actually go on the car. We're taking advantage of the show missing parts menu here so that we can see what should be on there. So we're gonna grab the turbo. You know what needs to go on there? We're gonna need a coupler, we're gonna need a downpipe and a blow-off valve. So I scooped up a wastegate. That's gonna go on there. Here's our turbo exhaust pipe. And I'm gonna need a flex connector. So this isn't too bad. It would suck a little bit if you didn't know what you were doing, but the show missing parts mode does kind of help, for the most part, cover the gap. And of course we got to pick up one of these HKS style air filters. Next we've got this performance intake manifold. That's going on. Put a blow-off pipe on there. Need a blow-off valve for all the noises. Let's see, fuel rail. Let's go ahead and get a performance fuel rail on there, because why not? And then the hoses. Alright, and that appears to be everything that we're missing. So that was pretty cool. I dig that. minorly curious what we can see on the underside of the engine here. So let's pull the pan and just take a look. So we have got our underside there, and if we want to take this apart, well, that piston just came right out, and then we've got the end caps. That's what holds the crankshaft in. I just want to see how detailed they got. So then the clutch would have to come off. Okay, so the pressure plate comes off separately from the actual clutch disc. That is actually a little bit different than my experience. Those things are all just kind of together. And then we have got our rear cover. And that's actually what broke on my IRL drift car at the last event I was at. The rear main seal gave way, and it caused me all sorts of headache. There's our front cover as I attempt to click it. And finally we can pull the crank. So that's very detailed. I'm loving that. If you are into or want to learn about how to tune up your own vehicle, this is definitely an opportunity to learn more about how it goes. We're going to take a quick look at the head here as well. So we're just pulling out the coil packs, and there's our spark plugs. Here you can see our camshafts, and we've got our cam gears on the end. Those can come off. And then it looks like, yeah, each individual bearing cap we have to remove one at a time in order to get the cams out. Again, that's perfectly realistic, and so it's fair play. I can foresee people building maybe one engine in this game and thinking it's really fun, but then not wanting to honestly be troubled with all of these fine steps. So that's one of the things that I'm really curious about for sort of like the developer's intent for this game. Basically, like, who are they making this game for? Because on the one hand, you've got a driving mode that's all about drifting at Ebisu. That's pretty cool. I can see people wanting to get into that all by itself. And then you've got this tuning garage mode, and it's so detailed. But, like, what is this game trying to be? Do they want you to be a hardcore tuner? Do they want you to worry about the driving? I mean, realistically, most people that are into drifting have to learn to do both. Now, you may not have to take your own engine apart, but you're at the very least going to learn how to swap the engine in and out of the car yourself, and then just take the bare block over to like a professional to do interior work on it. That is pretty much guaranteed what the average drifter skill set looks like. It's cool that this game can introduce you to how all these parts come together and what all you need to do to, you know, take them together and take them back apart. That has been my review of the tuning mode in Drift 21. It's really cool, it's really detailed. You might be really frustrated though when you're on your second or third engine build and you're having to put all this crap together. The ability to buy fairly completed engines is worthwhile. We only did one corner of the suspension on this car, so in order to do the full car, we'd have to repeat that exact same process 3 more times. So you tell me, is it awesome that it's so detailed, or does it suck? I'm just glad to see a game that is showing what this part of it is like, because everybody focuses on the driving, and when you want to make it into a drift car, you buy a drift kit. With one click, it's instantly on the car and you go drive. That's kind of cool, but being able to really delve into the details here, I think is neat. Please consider dropping a like, and there's lots more on the channel to enjoy, so check out those playlists down below. Have a good night, guys. Peace.